Our first panel explored the macroeconomic realities of land scarcity shaping India's urban landscape. Now we shift our focus from the where to the what, the very building blocks of our future cities. Before we begin our next conversation and invite up the guests, may I please request you all to take your seats so we can start the next session. Okay, so for our next session on innovating construction material for real estate, I would like to invite on stage Abhishek Somany, Managing Director, Somani Ceramics, and Manu Malhotra, Founder Partner, Director, IIDC Architects. They will be in conversation with my colleague Aishwarya Patil. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for our panelists and the anchor.
Well, again, very good afternoon and many, many thanks for joining us here. In the next few minutes, we'll be talking about one of the things that we all love. We like our spaces aesthetic and as appealing as possible. But are there enough options available in the developer community among the real estate players also, known for blending architecture, nature, and sustainability? We're going to get some perspective on designing for New India, construction material innovation for evolving urban and suburban landscapes. Let's get a hold of some of the statistics before we start the conversation with the two gentlemen, Mr. Somani and Mr. Malhotra. Many, many thanks for joining us first off. So if we take a look at the numbers, India's urban footprint is expanding at an unprecedented pace. By 2036, over 40% of our population will live in the cities, which means we'll be adding to our cities about 600 million or about 60 crores. These are World Bank numbers, in fact, and we'll have about 60 crore urban dwellers. Now, this boom is not just about building more homes and offices, it's also about rethinking the very materials we use to build them. And I'd like you all to weigh in on all of this. Nearly 70% of the urban infrastructure needed by 2047 is yet to be built. So how should we seize this opportunity really and also ensure that we can create the next 70% homes, offices, and public spaces more greener and sustainable? Throw it open to you all.
Yeah. So thank you for having me here. You're absolutely right. An economy of our size should be at least 50% urbanized. And we are seeing that happen. A lot of our urbanization is happening outside of the tier 1 towns. There's satellite towns like Gurgaon, but otherwise, if I talk of ourselves, we have increasingly seen our sales move from tier 1 town to tier 2, 3, 4 towns, which is where the development is happening. Till very recently, it used to be IHB, which is individual home. But soon, even in the lately, even in the smaller towns, there's been high-rise buildings. Okay. So specifically, your question was around what? On the development or on the?
So the next couple of homes that we will build in the next couple of decades or so, say 2036 is one milestone, the other is 2047. We have the option to have more sustainable and a blend of architecture that will, and a blend of architecture. So what's your thought process on that? How can we change or tweak going forward from here?
So one thing we've noticed is in the tier 2, tier 3 towns, unfortunately, there's not too much emphasis, and Mr. Malhotra would be the right person to say, but there's not been too much emphasis on town and country planning. Buildings are coming up. There is no synergy between one builder and another builder, whether it's residential, commercial, or whatever it may be. There is no particular synergy. So if you see the older cities in India or even abroad, there is some kind of a design language to that particular city. So I think that outside, I think people have become more and more conscious about sustainability. I can talk very confidently about my industry. As far as my industry is concerned, of course, tiles are extremely sustainable. They're made out of a natural material. It's fired with natural gas. We are aiming to be a zero emission soon, but we do a lot of stuff to make sure that we take out more number of square meters with lesser gas. On the other hand, we do use lesser quantity of material for the same attributes of the tile without compensating anything on the durability or the performance or anything like that. If you come to sanitary ware and bath fittings, we've seen increasingly where water has been the main forefront. So the newer sanitary wares, when you flush a cistern, it uses less water. This we urge. A lot of times we urge people to use Indian products. The reason is not because they're made in India. Of course, we're very proud to be made in India. And we're probably one of the only manufacturers in the country which have been made in India, always have been made in India since the last 55 years of existence. But what I was saying is that every particular nation, as far as sanitary ware is concerned, and this I've had an argument with some builders, there was an onslaught of China some time ago. And the sanitary ware, the bath fittings are made for their water, for their flushing standards, etc. And that builder went and bought a Chinese product, and known to us in advance, his water bill for that particular building had doubled because the thing wouldn't flush at one time. So there are certain products which we make for Indian standards. If you remember, I can make an analogy with a car. Earlier, the German cars used to come. They wouldn't cool in India because they were not built for Middle Eastern countries and Indian countries. Now they are. So the same way, from a water conservation point of view, the way we are treating the Indian water, the kind of TDS levels we have over here, the kind of pressure we have over here, we are making sanitary ware, and we means the entire industry in India, be it my competition or us, we're making it for the Indian diaspora, for the Indian water, for the Indian conditions. That itself is a large water conservation. So I think sustainability for every builder has become extremely important. Most consumers are also demanding it, but very little understood around that. We do talk of, for example, I will take an example of a particular, I won't name anybody, but there is a builder in next to our factory. Now he's gone and bought a product which is in Haryana. So our factory is in Haryana. He's probably 10 kilometers from the factory. But he's gone and bought a material all the way from Gujarat for 2 rupees cheaper. How is that sustainable? So a lot of people talk about it. It's a vague subject mostly with people. Everybody sees that, okay, we're sustainable, we're this, we're that, we're following ESG norms. Very little is known, frankly, unfortunately.
Right.
But it's getting there.
All right. Mr. Manu Malhotra, I would like to get your view also on the next 70% homes that are yet to be built by 2047. How can we make a difference as this industry, as a representative of this industry?
Yeah. I feel, I mean, the urbanization is really rapidly changing, and with the advent of, I mean, what has happened in the last decade and a half, I mean, with digitization, and with the road infrastructure, etc., which has been built. I think this construction may happen in different other cities, Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, because Tier 1 cities, as was discussed in the last panel, has become really very expensive. Examples of Gurgaon were cited where density actually restricts in terms of number of units you can build. So, augmenting the FAR, etc., vis-a-vis the land cost is also a challenge. So I feel that, I mean, the masses which were moving to Tier 1 cities would essentially, with this hybrid work culture, would move to Tier 2, 3 cities back, and the influx would probably reduce, right? And hence, there is a lot of growth potential there in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. and ultra high net worth individuals, which were either way having, their houses in, exotic locations close to the beaches and hills. They have started spending more and more time there, and which is taking the technologically advanced materials, automations, etc., to these newer cities. So that's on the demand side of it. But on the supply side, again, with the road infrastructure, e-commerce, warehousing, and all that, the gap analysis, or the gap between the suppliers and the end users is kind of is getting reduced because of that. So I think that this whole thing would essentially contribute to that building part of it.
Right. Next, I would also like you all to weigh in on the construction materials business that contributes nearly 25% of India's greenhouse gas emissions, which is pushing the industry to find smarter, greener solutions without compromising on costs or quality. Specifically, if you speak of certain materials, concrete, steel, and cement are particularly, the huge, larger, significant emitters, in fact, with production process releasing substantial amounts of carbon dioxide. What are some of the substitutes or new materials that we can look at to maybe replace it, or maybe a mixture of all of these?
As far as tile is concerned, we are the substitute of various other natural material, natural stones, marbles, granites, etc., limestones. So I think this particular product which we manufacture is the substitute. Not only to natural stone, lately we've also come out with some material which is for decking and furniture. So you can use tiles instead of using marble and granite tabletops, you can now use tiles. So they're thick, 15 millimeters, 20 millimeters. So I think we're the substitute for all this material. While we are a substitute, we are always continuously trying. Our endeavor is to, like I mentioned earlier, endeavor is to lower the carbon footprint in terms of using better and cheaper material, in terms of our clay and sand and whatever else we use. As far as our glazes are concerned, a lot of the glazes used to be with lead, with cadmium. We're trying to see how we can use less and less and less of lead. We hardly use any lead from that point of view. So that again is something which we're very conscious of in terms of recycling. I think 15 years ago, nothing used to be recycled. Today, 100% of our product is getting recycled in the system. Either it goes back into making the tile, or then we are making tile adhesives or something which is backward integrated, and substituting sand and cement for that matter. Unfortunately, sanitary ware and bath fittings, there is no substitute. You need some form of sanitation any which ways. There again, our endeavor is to make sure that we make more sanitary ware, make it with the same attribute but use less fuel and less material, and yet not lose any qualitative property of the product. So that's where we are.
Mr. Malhotra, you're an architect and you work with a whole lot of real estate developers as well. That you've seen lately innovative in terms of finding substitutes to these materials that you would like to add?
So see, I mean, the major thrust is how quickly you can deliver the product, right? So the material advancements in terms of the delivery gaps, the material advancements in terms of, drywall constructions and all that, which can actually reduce the, wastage of water and dust for the construction sites. All of this actually helps in creating greener buildings and a faster delivery to the client. I mean, that's one area where we are seeing a lot of evolvement, a lot of use of glass because it is faster to construct. Glass is no more, something which gains heat, right? I mean, there are advanced low-E glasses available, which actually reduce the heat load inside the building. So all these things put together actually is helping in reducing the carbon footprint and making more greener buildings.
Right. Mr. Somani, you did mention about China and how it is, in fact, the leading player in terms of ceramics and the production. How do we balance this competitiveness? And India, I believe, is on the second spot as far as ceramic products are concerned. In these kind of sectors, which China is currently leading, with the urgent need for sustainability, of course, and how do we ensure that the materials we choose keep pace with India's unique climate, and also we have a different kind of a culture and evolving aspirations as well?
Yeah, so as far as style is concerned, there was a huge upsurge in China with the two large construction giants which went bankrupt fairly recently. It was all over the news a couple of years ago, and that was the downfall of the Chinese economy also to start with. So there was a huge upsurge of tiles. So just to give you some numbers, they used to make about 12 billion square meters of tiles per annum. India used to make at the same time, 5-7 years ago, 1 billion square meters. We've moved up to 2.5 billion square meters in the last 5 to 6 years. China has come down from 12 billion square meters to 4 billion square meters. So they're really not leading, and obviously it's a much larger nation with much more infrastructure. The leader in the pack from an export point of view is no longer China. I think two mistakes. One, their economies of scales have become their diseconomies of scales. Their kilns, their processes are so long, and they're only efficient if you buy multiple thousands of square meters of a single design, which no builder is wanting to buy. They're wanting variety. Architects like him want variety. Now, he's not going to buy 20,000 square meters of a single SKU for no client. So they're competitive if you do that. So that, like I said, their diseconomy, their economies of scale has become the diseconomy. This is as far as style is concerned. So India has become the front runner as far as this is concerned. COVID, on the sanitary ware side, I think we were in a comfort zone where we used to buy some stuff from China. We manufactured 50%, bought 50%. I think COVID taught us a lesson where nothing was available for those 2-3 years. So we indigenized, and today very proudly saying 95% of India is manufactured here. We're not very large sanitary ware manufacturers, so we were anyway made in India, but the other giants in India in this segment were buying from China, no longer, because they found this opportunity during COVID out of duress, that they had to indigenize, which they did, and no longer are we dependent on China. So I don't think in our sector we're very proudly more efficient than the Chinese. In fact, we can probably export into China rather than import from there.
Well, we have less than a minute to wrap up this conversation, so I'm just going to quickly squeeze in 2 questions. First, to Mr. Malhotra, how do you see urbanization shaping material needs in this emerging market? And what has been the biggest challenge as an architect for you to balance between innovation, sustainability, and affordability? And one final question to you, sir. I am from the millennial generation, and the next decades or so, I mean, for me, home buying is closer than I know, but the retirement plan usually and the discussions between millennial and Gen Zs is, will we ever be able to have a modern mud house, that could be natural to India? Is that a reality that we could see in the future in terms of what real estate we'll be able to purchase and going forward?
So, I mean, I think the first part of your question was that, how the material is reshaping the Indian cities, the upcoming Indian cities. I think that partially I answered in my last conversation with you that, urbanization is actually shifting to the newer cities. See, what's important to see is that the material evolution has happened so much in the last decade and a half that, these kind of materials were only seen in the pictures, right? I mean, they were not available in the country. And what we really need to do as designers is today to design buildings which are, have global, sensitivity, I mean, in terms of the look and feel, but they should be culturally rooted. I mean, we cannot leave our culture. When we get people who are asking for, Scandinavian designs for their houses and all that, they want to build something in Jaipur and they want to have Scandinavian design. So what we personally try and tell them is that you cannot go away from your cultural roots. You may still end up designing a courtyard house. You pick up the minimalistic or clean architecture of Scandinavian designs, and the courtyard may not really have those intricate carvings and all that, but can have much more cleaner and simpler stuff. You can have the richness of the colors and materials which is available and which belongs to our country. Bring in the look and feel of there, but do not leave the essence of the culture. I hope I've answered it.
Yeah. Well, I would have loved to hear more from both of you, but it says time's up. So thank you so much for bringing your perspectives and joining us here on NDTV Real Estate Conclave. Thank you.
A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for that fascinating conversation with Abhishek, Somani, and Manu Malhotra. Thank you so much.